Hello, and welcome to the third discussion of Stormed Fortress, which is the eighth book in the Wars of Light and Shadow series by Janny Wurts. And Jared and Chris are swiping the books across the screen in case you don't know what they look like. And today we're going to be discussing chapters 9 through 12. We usually go through approximately 4 chapters, which is 160-ish pages each week. We will be wrapping up the next discussion in about 2 weeks. We do these discussions every 2 weeks, and then we may go straight on to the next book, Initiate's Trial, without really a break, like we usually take one between books. With me, I have the usual group of friends. Jared, could you start us off with introductions? Chris is going last.
Certainly. I'm Jared, a Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, and also on podcast, Speculations, and other fine podcasts with friends at pagechewing.com. Chibi.
Yep, I'm the usual TB Poe. I lurk on Page Chewing and pop in every 2 weeks here.
You may go, Chris.
My name's Chris. I'll say no more in case Varsha cuts me off.
Well, you have admin privileges. You can bring yourself back.
Stop breaking the illusion.
Yeah, a few broken illusions going on here.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what a segue. Excellent.
Nice. Yes, that was a good one. Once again, nothing significant happens in these chapters. Just regular for Wars of Light and Shadow. It's not like a dragon awoke or anything, or has been awake for a while. But we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah,
What?
good questions. Good questions.
Mhm.
I do have some questions regarding
Yeah.
some of these events and some of these happenings and chapters and stuff like that. But I'm sure we'll get there in good time.
Mm-hmm.
So, chapter 9 had a lot of conversations
Yeah.
in the beginning of it. Let's see who was involved. Mayern was involved in these, and this was called Schism. So it looks like is that referencing the schism between Brandy and Mayern, you think?
Yeah, quite possibly.
Because it says Mayern was shocked about something.
Well, it was shocked that Branson had abducted Jensa, wasn't he? He was very much like, what the hell's that guy doing, kind of thing.
Right.
And yeah, that whole the split of the Suburban brothers, if you know what I mean, in terms actually it's pretty much a theme actually of them all sort of pulling in slightly different directions of all these 4 chapters. I think between Parry and under the control of Coriani.
Yep.
Branson kind of doing his own thing and almost desperation, and then Mern being somewhat the voice of reason, a little bit, maybe the one closest to the flock. That'd be the best way to put it. But we are dealing with the fallout of certainly Jensen's abduction.
Yep. And there was a lot of concern over Arathon because he seemed to be kind of not doing much about the situation yet. He was studying the situation, and people were getting very impatient with him.
Yeah, and it's sort of I always end up doing this linking this things happen later in the 4 chapters, but it is Arathon walked away from this conflict to start off with. He then had the promise with Sulfan that he wouldn't intervene overtly in the conflict at all, and yet he is in the middle of this situation where both Allura is, where Jensa is, where he's sort of honor bound to protect them in some way. So it created this real problem for him in terms of what he could do, what he might do, and I think the impression that we get as the reader at the stage is that he is just going to sit in the sidelines from the conflict and do nothing, which is why Branston sort of acts in that way to kind of force his hand. But it also means, in classic Janny style, that the resolution of that, when Arathon confronts Branston, we get an unexpected resolution of that, in Arathon's speech, which was very classic, very satisfying to read, because it sort of was not the fire and brimstone head to head that everybody was expecting, including Mern and Dakar,
Yeah.
That was kind of a brilliant moment when he went in and said, "Well, what did you want? What were you trying to do with this?" And I was already going to do that for you, sort of, not quite the way you wanted. Was this necessary?
Yeah. I kind of got the feel that Brancian was kind of being played by his wife. What's her name again?
Lies? I don't know how to say that.
Lias, yeah, Lias. It was kind of, it felt to me kind of like a Theoden and Wormtongue situation,
right,
where he's getting bad advice, he's listening to it, and he's acting on it, and it just had that feel to me, because who says it? Somebody, there was an unspoken question that remained. I think it was Talvish who said that their standards have been poisoned, and just how far had Brancian's insanity led them, and who else beyond Lies, and quite likely Sindel, I'm not sure who that is,
I
had
think
spun.
she's the widow of the brother who died, Keldmar.
Oh, okay. Had spun tonight's threads of deceit. Yeah, and so Marin he had all those questions about, how Brancian got so insane, and how he or so overreactive, I guess, and mad about what to do and stuff. And so I found that interesting, that it wasn't just a hot-headed Duke all on his own, that he actually had some urgings and some being pushed in that direction,
Yeah. And was it also this chapter where Arathon and Ilera were using Alethiel to have sex and like complete what they had started in Halwithwood, or was that the previous chapter? Because I read that this.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah, it was.
Healing the backlash from the healing Sadir.
Yeah. It was Sadir's unorthodox healing that opened the way, because of how they used the sword to help heal Sadir. It actually, the sword was able to kind of cut off that Coriani.
I think it was due to being tied in with the Paravian wardings, and
yes.
what since Lithiel was there, what was Salidi was trying to do was an assault upon Arathon. So Lithiel's like, yeah, how about no?
Yeah.
So
but Dakar's frustration with Arathon when he realizes what Arathon is planning is like, oh, okay, this is hilarious.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. What was I going to say? Oh God. Yeah, I was trying to remember what it was that Moriel had, or who she had set this up on, so that he would only ever engender female children. Was that on him directly? And if so, how did she do that? I couldn't remember.
It was back in Trader's Knot. We found out that when Ilera had the audience with Salidi in Peril's Gate, she had planted a sigil on her that would transfer to Arathon, if they had sex.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
So would this use of Alethiel prevent that sigil transfer too, or just?
It does. I believe it specifically mentions it
Okay.
That
Maybe I didn't
either
notice
the
because I didn't.
Alithiel or the Paravian wardings arrested it and rendered it inert.
Okay. Okay.
At
Yeah.
least this time.
Yeah. Alethea is pretty cool. It's like a miniature at Adept Grove hostel thing. That's I guess combined with the Paravian wardings of Ayleston, but it's super cool how it's being used in these chapters.
Yeah,
And
it's also Arthur has this like little toolbox of magic implements. Get me a lethal. Get
yeah.
Bring me my labyrinth. Yeah.
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 Well, which one is best used for this one?
Well, yeah, that's all part of the brilliance of it is because he, we've been exposed to these various implements throughout the whole series now, and getting little hints of how useful they are, how useful his bardic magic is with this, being a master bard and his song, and how useful that sword is. And it's not like we were told a couple, 2 or 3 books ago that it's not just a sword. It's not just for killing things or whacking things.
In fact,
And
it's not to be used for that.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. But we kept getting hints and hints of that. Even from Curse of the Mystery, that sword was mentioned. It was prominent in one of the chapters in Curse of the Mystery, and we just kept getting all these hints all along, and now we're starting to really see its power and what it can do here in these chapters.
Yeah, the Paravian influence has definitely increased in this book. If you know what I mean, the certainly the effects of the remnants of the Paravian world and all that kind of stuff. We're really seeing that kind of pulled through as we go through this book.
Yep. Yeah. And
but then we also see that since she can't penetrate the Paravian wards, who Saleedy's turning her attention to now.
Yeah.
To start tormenting him.
That was scary. He's trying to push the fortress over the cliff by hitting the bedrock. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. I found it funny that in chapter 9 that Sulfin, of course, comes in and he's got to beat up Lysair again. It's just like, oh, here we go.
Oh yeah. Wait. Oh yeah. That was when he tells him what that the dreams are being caused by Koryani, and then the people of the religion doubt. They say, how can you think that our avatar can be manipulated by those witches? And then he gets kicked out and says, here, you here's an errand for you. Please leave. Don't come back.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. So okay, this is the chapter where they pretty much go to, I guess, the Ilera and Arathon. Then Arathon goes to say, what did you want?
Yeah, the second audience.
Everybody breaks into tears.
Yes, it's an interesting resolution of that, because basically Arthur goes in and says, I'm already here, I'm already going to do stuff, but as part of this whole injustice, you're going to do this for me now, you're going to give me Talvish, you're going to, so it's almost like it works in reverse for Arthur, as he comes in all high and mighty and says, you idiot, you're going to have to make reparations, and in doing so, give me all your best people.
Yeah, it was funny. I didn't see what he was trying to accomplish. I thought all he wanted to do was hurt Jensa or like keep her hostage so that Arathon would act on his behalf, like basically ransom her out for Arathon's help. But and it was that to a certain extent, but it wasn't just that, right? Because Arathon could have freed her at any time, but it was the falsification of information saying, hey, your liegeman did something bad here. He broke guest honor, whatever it was called. And then he hurt our guardsmen. And so as punishment, you have to do something for us. That was their end game, apparently. That So it was interesting to see that sort of unravel. And then we have this own what evidence witness of a fellowship spellbinder. So yeah, that's not gonna fly.
Yeah,
Also, the
and
guy you thought was dead is alive.
yeah, right. Yeah, that was good, and it was interesting that the settlement was granted in private, so they didn't have to make a big public spectacle out of it. So that was I don't know if that was that a um was that a condition that it was in private to save Brancian a little face? You think?
I think he would have had to be tried for
Yes, that's
um
right.
Right.
a clan bread thing. Like he, what is it called? The clan oath, whatever. Chibipo will tell us. But
Yeah, it would have. It was like it would have involved the fellowship, and
Right.
it would have been a big
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Right. All right. So very well handled all around. I think it was a very cool situation. Um, and then of course in the next section, Nightmare, we get the four hatchlings again. Uh, they were mentioned on the latent terror that Seth most feared now brewed a disaster. The skulls of the four dragon hatchlings, once enslaved for black augury, had been left unwarded too long. Their angry ghosts stirred, and soon they would remember their defiled origin. And that was the section where Davian came in and had a conversation with Seth there. And I thought that was a very cool conversation between them.
yeah, and I guess the part that seemed somewhat what's the word I'm looking for? Not subtle exactly, but it was just sort of thrown in there, which became significant later on. Was when he said, "What Drake did you strike your bargain with that you can see inside
Yeah,
a grim ward?"
exactly. And that's like the mention of that bargain. And I was like, okay, so Davian, of course, we find out he has some sort of bargain. And we're like, um, I don't know exactly what that bargain is yet,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
it seems to be related to him being the betrayer somehow, and so I'm really anxious to get more information after after these chapters, after what happened with the dragon coming up later. So
Yeah, yeah. And Arathon, sorry, not Arathon. Asandir's horse is mentioned again and several times over in the next few chapters too, which again is interesting. What is up with that horse?
yeah, well, Ascendare is kind of is he trapped in a Grimward? Is he
I think he's
having
trying
trouble?
to fix that Grimward, but it's unclear at this moment whether he will succeed. And
I think it says that he is trapped inside the Grimward, and
or he's
a bit
trapped
later
proper.
on, I think he's trapped inside the Grimward at oh God, what's the place? Too many places in
Yeah,
these 4 chapters.
because he's
Scarpdale.
Scarpdale. Is that
Yes.
what it is?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because he's unable to come back right now. He's
Yeah.
Well,
unable to
he's like
help out.
also like um protecting Isfaran's spirit soul, because Isfaran passed away while he was inside.
Right.
Um, and he's just been doing these back to back to back to back, and as has been observed, he's constantly doing something, and like these usually are really difficult to be handled, so he's trying to do it all by himself.
Yeah, yeah, and he's not having an easy time of it, from what we can tell. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. And then
So was that the? Sorry, go ahead, Jared.
no, go ahead.
I was going to ask if we found out that he was trapped through the little glimpse that we got from from what Davian showed Satvir.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that or if it was a little later.
I
But
think it was mentioned earlier too, where he was like, inside it, caught in the middle of a snowstorm. Just
Uh,
it's like it's just too unruly for him, or
okay, got it. Yeah, the Satvir's place of dreaming and it dying out as he was. That was interesting too.
oh yeah.
Some lots of magical stuff in these chapters.
Oh
Go
yeah.
ahead, Jared. You were gonna start a new topic.
Yeah, I was just in the next chapter, Hammer and Anvil, chapter 10. While Arathon's kind of like prevaricating his possibilities here. The Duke, let's see here. What does he do? He's arguing with the Duke, and then finally he acts and he does something. And that's when he is this when he does the sword thing?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's in
uh,
10.
because Lysair's army moves and he realizes he needs to do something. I think.
Right,
That's
right, yep. Uh,
This sword
but
thing.
yeah,
I like
that sword thing. uh,
yeah.
Well, the miracle, basically they're
Yeah.
calling it, and the miracle that causes like Lysaia just to collapse.
Yeah.
And causes kind of the death of Dame Daw.
Yeah.
Like she's so at peace with
Yeah.
this, she can finally pass on. Like she was holding on for who knows how long. And
Which is not mentioned again in the next two chapters. Like, there's no grieving for, like, she's basically the matriarch of the entire family. Like, it's a very beautiful resolution to her story in a lot of ways, because she's just like, she dies seeing Anthony's beautiful face that she likes. She
yeah,
was so
yeah.
spot for him.
It was a great line. It was like her last breath blessed the Master Bar's name as loved beyond pain. Her dauntless spirit was lifted to soar on the flame of ecstatic departure. And I was like, it was a beautiful sentence. And just, what a way to describe somebody's last moments. And then, yeah, you're right. We don't hear anything in the next two chapters. I mean, a lot's happening.
That's right.
So you kind of get it. There's no really any time to grieve, but yeah, it was I wonder if we'll get some resolution, in the next four chapters probably, but very cool.
I like when we see that are told that Lysair collapse, we don't actually know what effect it's had on him at that stage, and I think that's one of the nice things that it comes around and play. I think it makes the impact of what actually has happened to Lysair when that comes back around in chapter 11, 12, whatever it is, that much more impactful, I think, at that stage, because we're not sure. And especially when you combine that with like Sulfan's journey across the plains back to him, when you see the devastation and see what some of the other effects that have happened, and how that's the Coriani plot and Arthur with sword thing, how those two things have combined.
Yeah, I did also like, that bit where, Erethan, was, when he was walking around and trying to get things to work, and, he was, defeated with his, initial plan. So he had to go with, the Elithial plan, because he couldn't get the Paravian wards to respond to him. They just wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the sentence about that. The mighty cord that underpinned the great stone's aware fastenings eluded his straining cognizance. Arathon heard with the master bard's ear what might never be placed into melody. So he's like basically struggling to see if he can move or like turn around the wardings to pretty much do with Alethiel what he did, I guess, but maybe with a bigger sphere of influence. Or I don't know if he was trying to do something different with that. But yeah, we find out later that Lysair hadn't fainted, right? He just pretended to have fainted so that people will actually take what was given to them and leave. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the reasons why was we find out later is because all of a sudden he's a little clear-headed,
Yeah.
and that was, I mean, that's later on, but there's great conversation with Soph and Evan at that point. But
Yeah. Yeah. That was one of my favorite
yeah,
bits, probably in the series, not just in this book. But we'll get
Yeah.
yeah. But one of the great things that
But
happened next. Oh, wait.
Bob was going to say, but it is actually preceded by the best event in the entire book as well. But we'll come to that in a second.
uh, one of the things that happened next was uh, the quartz shattering on Celadai,
Yeah.
blasted the shards when he put this power into effect, and that was like very cool. And then, of course, the the desertions start happening in Lysaea's camp. Um, that whole section of mayhem was just fantastic.
Yeah. Is it a good time to talk about her long-term plans? Not yet, but it keeps feeling like she's one step ahead. I'm not able to celebrate for too long something bad that happens to her, because within 5 seconds she's like, I plotted this dragon flying in the sky. Oh, I knew about it. I planned for this. uh,
Yeah, but nothing of hers ever really comes off. Aside
that's
from the
true.
grand conspiracy, where she can't that's the thing that worked for her. But everything else she gets so close to, and even at the point we've left off here in our reading, there's still things in the mix, like it's still sitting there, but sort of everybody's aware of it enough to
Mm,
Mm.
kind of think, okay, there's something could happen there. But most of Celeti's plans are like they're not going great, and she's becoming
yeah.
more maniacal as the book goes
Mhm.
on. Her disregard for the rest of the order, the Coriani order. I sort of have a theory about what
Yes.
could happen there, kind of going forward, which is
It's in a lot of ways, yeah, it's like things haven't gone well for her, but I think she's, people like to describe this as, a trope or whatever, but it's like things don't go well for her. She suffers setbacks, but she almost always is getting something out of it. So
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
it's a setback, but she's still advancing her, agenda.
her overarching plan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
except in moments where Davian or Erethan, mess her up, tremendously. But every other time it's like stuff sets her back, but she's always got it. She's something else, or it, some other plan, that helped something else go proceed. So
Yeah, it's interesting because she's been around 1,000 years, and she has this huge amount of knowledge. And but what I found very interesting was she admitted that she doesn't know the range of the tonal harmonic a Paravian influence might engender, or far less understand the arcane force impacts in untrained in an untrained is impacts an untrained human consciousness. And so what Arathon was doing with the harmonics through Elithiel and causing all that even she didn't know about that and what the effects were. I found that pretty fascinating.
mm.
yeah,
That
that
sorry, go
don't
ahead.
go ahead. You go ahead.
No, yeah, I was gonna say, the since we're talking about it, the whole thing with the drakes, apparently it's implied that she planted it or she wanted that to happen, not precisely this moment, but at some point she wanted a dragon to show up so that she could discredit the fellowship sorceress, right? But also, and maybe some of this she did. mm, okay, we'll come back to that. But the dragons can literally shape reality and change things around them. So what things could pretty much go very horribly wrong for her because of the dragons. So she is playing with fire, but also I'm wondering what she knows and what she's trying to manipulate. And this, um, she gave this gift to Salfin Evans' ancestors several years ago, right? Or several around the time of the uprising, or okay, what I'm trying to understand is the timeline. Did it match with this crying that she did, where she found out that Arathon, if Arathon lives, she's going to die without passing on the Koreani inheritance? And did that have to do with this dragon
Hmm.
plot? Or if she did that well before, and in that case, the dragon shaping reality thing that should have played into her calculations, no?
It's a good question. I hadn't thought about putting those events together at all.
Mm. So
Interesting.
Huh.
did it seem like a couple of generations ago? It was at least his grandfather that got the dragons, right? Which what has it been? 50 years since the beginning
The
of the book?
hatchlings were mislaid quotation marks during the rebellion, the uprising.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that's what
Right.
I thought. It's
Okay.
been a long time, so
Hmm.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. And then so Mayern took the responsibility to actually flee with his family, um, which is he was agonizing over, but I think we all think he did the right thing. Um, and Alara tried to take off, didn't get very far.
Yeah.
All right, there was one thing about Davian's plans being ruined, and I don't remember exactly.
Oh,
I was kind of thinking about that, and like, what does that mean exactly?
So yeah, so Davian was supposed to was seemed to be saving himself to be at Arathon's beck and call when he needed it at most in the future. But the whole thing with the dragon happened, and he kind of had a choice to make that he wasn't going to be in two. He couldn't do the two things, and he sort of had to leave Arathon's fate up to himself. Basically, Arathon was going to have to work it out himself without Davian being there. Which, to be fair, I thought was interesting because Davian's motives are always still in question, the whole way through. We don't exactly know what it is that Davian wants because his motives seem to be slightly different from what the rest of the fellowship is, right? And he's been there coming in. But this one made it very clear that he was very much hinged on using Arathon for the Pravian plan, to get the Pravians back in some way. And even when was it Carbon he was talking to, and he was basically saying he had underestimated Arathon and actually Arathon's ability, to be able to do it. I think a lot of those things are sort of coming to roost for him because he's feeling like I don't have to handhold him the whole way through this. He is a very capable person in his own right, and so it makes some of those decisions maybe a bit easier for him.
Yeah, he said he would see the enchantress through Alistron's gates, like she is the sole anchor to balance the recoil as Prince Arathon faces this setback, and he was worried about not being free, but he didn't want Arathon standing alone.
No, yeah.
So I think his plan was to not let Alara go. He didn't want Alara to leave. Is that what it was?
I think he wanted her to leave. She couldn't get to him in time because of
To him, okay, right.
yeah. Because of the storm. I think he wanted to help her get there. Maybe that's how I read it. But then he couldn't because the dragon wanted him to
Yes, the dragon wanted him. Yeah,
go destroy Avenor. So
dragons have bigger plans.
yeah. There were multiple conversations where Davian is sort of marveling at the being that is Arathon, right? Like the one with, was it Satvir or Karadmon? I can't remember, but one of them. And uh, also when he's talking to the dragon and explaining to them that killing humans, well, I don't know what cost it will cause for the dragon, but he's saying that they will be unhappy about this. And the dragon says, yeah, whatever, I don't care
Yeah.
about them. And he's saying he he's thinking of specifically Arathon when he says no, they do matter, but he doesn't want to draw the dragon's attention there. So yeah, it's interesting what he might hope to achieve with Arathon. He seems to be very particularly, like, on a personal level, not just using him as a tool anymore. He wants to help him for everything that he wants to do. That seems to be the case, but I don't know if it's true.
Yeah. Yep. Very cool stuff. And and then the of course we had the Coriani messing with Parian and his men to counterbalance Arathon's, peaceful sword magic. And she was driving them to rage and killing people. And it was interesting to see that guy Vanden kind of figuring it out, and he's like, wait, something's wrong here.
Yeah.
And he's like, these guys aren't even put up a fight. They're not even defending themselves. This is very wrong. And it just showed how that the clansmen still have that magic in their bloodline and in their, just another hint of that, so.
And Bandam was also at the Warhost of Asmark incident as well in the sea, so he had some experience of the effect of the curse, etc., on events, and I think it was sort of, he felt, a similar kind of feeling from it. And what I really loved about that whole thing is when they went back to Celadine, and she was going like, that one guy, he's gonna mess it all up for me because he's got a sense of what's going on here. We need to try and work through him and get him on side, because he's going to ruin everything that they have, the plan that they have hatched, and like all of those kind of things. There was a lot actually in these chapters of jumping about in perspective in chapter. I don't think we've seen that quite so much in any of the books, really. There's a lot of this event's happening here, it's happening here, it's happening in multiple places, and we're kind of going round the houses on everybody's perspective on that, and it's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of elaboration of the same event through different eyes too, right? Like when I almost imagine sort of like a zombie formation leaving the war alliance when they were disbanded, but not really. They were very conscious and they were making the right choices because they've just had the compulsion of, or the influence of, the light thing removed from them. Which is also interesting, like the way that was talked about in, I guess, the Koreani and the commanders of the light who chose to stay behind. They thought that what Arathon imposed on them was a compulsion, but what he did was remove the compulsion that had been imposed on them before. So yeah, interesting. Like I like the hopping around of perspective too. There was one point, I can't remember which, where I was like, I wish we got another perspective of this so I can understand it more, because there were parts that weren't clear to me, and then we got one in the next section. So yeah, it was interesting, the jumping around.
The point I want to make, it's one of those classic things. You're just watching certain characters, right? And if you think certain characters are in the story for big reasons, sometimes you get completely wrong. Like I thought Talith was going to be such a key point, although in theory her death is still being referenced here, in the lucidness. We'll come back to that in a while. But Lorenda, the hot mess, is she's lingering around here. I sort of feel like, and she's almost like a slave at the moment. She's just a tool for Saletti at the moment. I sort of feel like she is going to have the chance to rebel against Saletti, because at the end of the day, she's basically a husk at the moment. She was almost burned out and killed when the court shattered, and all of that kind of happened. Like she was nearly just sacrificed, and she does have her own motivations and her own drives. Like she is, as much as she hates herself for it, in love with Arathon, you know what I mean? She is still sort of there. So she's a character that I'm watching really, really closely over this next stage, because for as much as Salidi is looking around her at all the other pieces around her, she's not watching in house for the people that she's ordering around. She's not thinking that anybody from within, aside, like, because she thought Allura was a problem, but she kind of boxed that off for herself a while ago and kind of given her the compulsion and stay with Arathon and all that kind of stuff. And follow your heart and do that kind of stuff. So she thinks the Coriani within is a problem, but I think Lorenda, being as powerful as she is somebody worth watching.
Yeah. And there was also another sister who when she came to say, "Oh, there's a dragon flying," you don't seem surprised by that. Were you planning this? Why didn't you think to tell us about it? And she chose not to explain herself. I think she might find support, Lorenda, if she thinks, because the others, it seems, are starting to think if this prime is overreaching.
Yeah.
But also, it seems that maybe it was clear to people who have read the short story that Sundered Star, is it? Or Sundering Star. But apparently she's protecting the legacy of thousands of worlds. They didn't just flee from one world. But if it's thousands of worlds that they fled from, were they all destroyed? And this was the only safe haven they could find?
I'm not sure about that. I know that Sundering Star only details one instance, so I don't know from what I remember, but I don't know. I don't know about how many all told.
Don't know if we ever get an exact number, but we do know that humanity, and we also don't know if there were other survivors, but this particular group of survivors, whereas it was this starfaring, galaxy spanning empire.
Yeah, right.
Maybe more than one actually. And they all kind of, went boom.
So the Bene Gesserit sisters came and found refuge here.
Yeah. And then we get Phelan trying to go through the blockade. Some, some little planning and machinations for her. And then, of course, we get the big thing in the news items of chapter 10. That's when you see the dragon, and and he comes down and destroys Avenor at Sunwheel Square, and that's like this little tiny paragraph in a news item. It's like it's the biggest events in the book. It's like huge.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow.
I love the description of how Davian sort of became a mote of light and went inside the dragon's eye as if he had existed the whole time. That was quite brilliant.
It kind of reminded me of when Arathon was brought to at the end of Trader's Knot, when he was brought to the desert people. It kind of had that same kind of feel.
Yeah.
And that was brilliant. Just brilliant stuff.
So the drops that he's getting his scrying information from, are those the dragon's tears or something? Where is it falling from? It's the dragon giving him information about what's going on in the world, right? And it's being selective about what it shows. And it shuts off the stream while so Davian basically begs the dragon to say, "Show me one more thing, and then we'll do what you want." Which is when he's shown the Phelan Fiak conversation. But I did wonder what the drops were of.
Oh yeah. Huh. Well, Davian becomes a dragon eye drop.
Yeah.
You have that entire conversation between Davian and the dragon, where the dragon the dragon's basically saying, humanity's not important, and Davian's basically saying, but humanity is important. And Davian, I mean, we get to see that Davian really doubts himself in that moment, and he's basically saying, "Oh God, if this had been Saladas or this had been somebody else, we'd have been in a much better position." And but you see that moment of vulnerability in that conversation, and I think that's really, again, really interesting character point for Davian himself. He always seems to be totally in control and knows everything that's going on at all time, but in that moment, he's like, "Oh, I'm not sure."
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a new turning point for this character, and yeah, you're right. In the past he was always like, "I'm coming in. I know stuff,"
Yeah.
and yeah, now it's you're right.
And not surprisingly, a dragon has been telling him how it's going to be, but now he has to talk to the dragon itself. So yeah, I did like that moment for him.
Oh yeah. Now we get chapter 11. Some more evil planning by Celidae.
Yeah.
Jack, by your will.
It's like, oh, Ilera's gonna thwart what she wants to do, but then she wanted Ilera to go in and stop him. Just when at what point will we find out that she's been properly defeated? I guess not until Song of Mysteries, if at all, but but
Yeah.
yeah. You
Yeah,
get to
and
celebrate
she-
it for 2 seconds before saying,
Yeah.
no, actually.
Well, we know from chapter 9, I think it was chapter 9, where she wants Alara back there because she's like just 100% convinced that if Alara stays in Arathan's close proximity, then they'll become sex obsessed little fiends, and she'll get babies off of Alara or whatever it is.
Mm.
Yep.
So that's all she wanted. I thought it had something to do with how the warning wouldn't. Not that's all, but like, if was that the goal of her going back, or was it that her warning Arathon would do something to the other thing that she had done here, which is like drive Parian's people crazy into a killing rage?
It's probably like several things, like get Alara back in his close presence, and whatnot. Plus, never remember she, would undoubtedly not hesitate to threaten Alara to make bring Arathan to heel. So, and she's figuring the more she can force Alara into his presence, the more he'll be, place her welfare above his own. So she's like, yeah, you do what I say, or
Yeah.
I turn Alara into a witless little, lick spittle or whatever.
Yeah, it says here that her plans required that Alara should spurn the sisterhood's interest. Like Alara has to work against the sisterhood interest in order for her plan to work. And she says that the irresistible fatal attraction would tie his will at the citadel's fall and finally close the Coriani fist on the reins of his destiny. That's interesting.
Which then she snares him, and she uses him against his fight against the Fellowship.
Right, of course, yeah. That's what she wants to do. Yeah. Absolutely.
So wheels and layers, and yeah.
And then somebody comes running in and says, and informs him that Lycea's royal capital was razed to the ground. Just a little bit of news.
Yeah. And Salfin event. What was the event, Chris, that you said precedes Salfin events?
So we have the thing with my boy Sultan where he's traveling back to the thing, and he gets to the camp where they're all being murdered basically by Parian's men and his fervor, and he's sick. Like, I think that whole bit where he doesn't get noticed by any scouts coming in or anything, and that whole thing's very chilling to him, and the point's made obviously in the book that he's hardened war veteran in a lot of ways, but even he is kind of sickened by what he gets to see, and it kind of spurs on him to get the Lysair at that stage. We have that lovely little interplay scene where Dakar and Glendine are kind of along the same path and they try and avoid each other and all of that kind of stuff. But Sultan's kind of, in Sultan's point of view, he's kind of turning over this kind of stuff. Oh, this is, Arthur said he wouldn't do anything and whatever else, and then he actually works out at the end of, this is Coriani. And the best part is when he gets to the tent of Lysair and Soletti's there and he tells her to get the F out.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the best part of the book for me so far. My boy Sultan going to Prime Soletti and go, get out of here.
Yes, I agree. I made a heart sign like you do as I was reading.
Oh, that was so satisfying, that kind of thing where she tries to talk her way out of it and Sultan's not having it at all. And I think this is one of the nice parts when we eventually get to the point that, Lysair is lucid at this stage and free of the curse because of Alethiel. He gets to see it very clearly as well. I was waiting for Lysair to bounce back and actually say, no, she might be onto something here, but actually you get this really, I think, beautiful part. Like, we know Varsh is the Lysair apologizer, but I think it would take a heart of stone to not feel for Lysair at the moment when he's speaking to Sultan and talking about Callistes and all of the things that he's been responsible for. That section was amazing.
Yeah, not only that, but he's like, we have to get out of here.
Yeah.
And he's explaining to Sultan like how can we stop this machine? I can't stop it. Like he doesn't feel like he can do anything about what's already in place.
Not too far.
And they choose to leave. So that was that's very interesting because it's like it makes me think. I really want to know like where they're going, what's going to happen in the next 4 chapters. To and didn't like I don't remember if because Lysair revealed that he has known the truth about himself for a while. It wasn't just it didn't just dawn on him now. He told Sullivan that he's known this truth for a while.
Yeah, but he can pinpoint the moment when it happened, when it was way back, kind of curse. I think it was just that instance in curse.
Yeah. So, I'm just I'm really fascinated about where that is going. Like Lysair's relationship, not just with Sullivan, but with the rest of the world, basically.
Yeah.
And how that's going to work out.
And this also, I think, explains Arathon basically breaking down in tears about what's going on with Lysair at the moment after in the King's Grove scene when he sees how out of control Lysair is. The bit that really stood out to me in this conversation was when he said that he had a very brief moment of awareness and what he saw was himself sort of destroying the bedrock of the city because he wanted to topple it over the cliff. And it almost felt like he was looking at himself from the outside and seeing just how out of control of himself he was. Which, that was a really heart-wrenching scene. And this is, to a certain extent, the equivalent of not maybe to the same scale, but of Arathon's experience through Keyworth's tunnels, right? Where he sort of had to re-look at everything he did as being under the influence of the curse. And Lysair was already aware of that and he already knew it, but to look at it with the awareness that he has now, with knowing what damage he caused, because he was able to not consider it under the influence of the curse, but now that he has the awareness and he has to think about it, the weight of guilt that he must be under. So yes, not apologizing for being a Lysair apologist.
I was reading that bit and going, Varsh is gonna be gloating so much when we go on this this cause. We're like, see, I told you he's a good person. He's, he's worth fighting for and all that kind of stuff. I was like, okay. Even I
But
feel sorry for him.
I don't know about like what fighting for. Like Sulfin, Evan, to a certain extent, his loyalty was blind. Now it's not. Now it's more out of friendship. But yeah, the harm he has caused measured up to how good a person he is. I don't know about that, but I think we can understand him. The moment in Peril's Gate when Arathon discovered that even the things that he thought he was doing in good faith was influenced by the mistake, that made me reconsider Lysa fully because he's not even aware. So anyway, that's that.
Yeah. And then, of course, Alaric does come back. Eventually, very dramatic entrance with the whole. What you need is a talisman. Who's that? Oh, okay, it's Alaric. And that was because Dakar was looking for a way to undo the Coriani influence, a spell. And the line that stood out to me was at the very end of that section that says, of two destinies posited, one had been lost when Arathon's beloved re-entered the Citadel. And I'm like, what are these destinies? Does anybody have a clue?
Well, was that not, it was part of the idea that the Coriani or Saletti needs her there, if you know what I mean, and the fact that she was returning back meant that the other possibility as part of Saletti's plan was gone. That's why I read it.
Yeah, or the destiny that Davian's trying to
well, again,
conjecture,
that's a possibility for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, so it was just a ominous line.
Great though, yeah.
And
what a name! Very intricate stuff kind of happening here. That
a
lot of mysteries and a lot of people with their own schemes and a lot of plans.
Absolutely. What a name for a dragon!
Yeah,
Seshkroshiel or something like that.
Kudos to you for trying to say it out loud. I didn't even.
I was just like, oh, that's great.
It is. It's a great string of symbols that I'm pretty sure I can never pronounce.
No, try. Just give it one go, Varsity.
Okay. Let's see. One of these chapters is named after the guy, right? Right. I can't. What page number is it on? The name.
Oh, it's 428.
Where am I?
Big black letters.
Page 436. Okay, 16 more. 428?
Yeah, it's
Sheshkroshi.
And it's now that I will point out that if you'd have went to page 689, it has the phonetic.
What a meanie.
I just wanted to do that. That's fine. That's
Next time you don't even say your name.
At this point, we have 3 named dragons.
The one in Scarpdale and
one of them we know is a kraken. And then there's in Radmore the Grimward. I believe the name was Hepastion. Something like that. It's Hapastion, I believe. That was one mentioned in one of the previous books, but
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, Chiel? Seshkroschiel? Seshkroschiel? Okay.
Seshkroschiel, yeah.
I can get used to that. Nice. Named dragons. What else?
Yeah. So we went over the Sulfin shooting down the Alliance and telling her to get out. Then Dakar succeeds in dissolving the Coriani spell and getting rid of that influence.
Yeah. And then we, at the end of the chapter, we get the warning that actually Arathon's in a bit of trouble, or his sword thing is maybe faltering a little bit.
Yeah, but they go and break it up quickly.
Yeah,
like even before it's meant to, right?
Yeah.
Once they get to they have the foundation problem, don't they? If anybody's seen Red Foundation, where they kind of talisman and they can't walk towards it, they all pass out. It's sort of similar thing with the Praevian magic, if you know what I mean, of Alethiel. They can't go near it.
Mm.
Yeah. And they have this whole conversation about who's seen a Paravian before and whether they can handle what Alethea throws at them. Irera has and Dakar has.
Well, that was interesting that Dakar saw
Yeah.
it when he was a kid.
But kid, yep.
Yeah, and I was like, oh wow, no wonder he's so messed up.
and then afterwards he's like, I just want to die. I'm done. I don't what is the point of anything anymore? And Arathon's like, bring me the the Lirant. And
Right.
yeah. That was nice.
Get yourself together and bring me the labyrinth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That was like everybody's falling apart around him. It's like, go get the guitar.
Gimme, I got this. Hold my beer.
Yeah, and then of course once he starts playing, we then have another one of those shifts. Even though he's playing for the car and for the people there, we get this thing with Sephir, who is on the edge of death. And he's just going to pass away quietly. And next thing, because he's attuned to that place, essentially, he snaps back upright. I was like, hey, guys, what's up?
Yeah. Even he was awed by Arathon's use of Alethiel in that manner. He was like, wow, how'd he do that?
Yeah.
Hey, Chibi, but do you know the translation for the Paravian, or do any of you? That he says. I only could understand the Ters Fallon in that.
Not off the top of my head, I'm afraid.
All I understood was that he was very odd, like you said, Jared.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not fluent in Paravian, Chibipo?
No, unfortunately not.
I thought you were teaching the course.
I know as much as any of us do, because all our access is the stuff in the glossary. I'm sure she's got a lot more exhaustive, but she's also mentioned it's not. She didn't set out to write a language. So
yeah. The one interesting note was Caradmon at the end of that section that called Shockwave there. He says, I'm going to flip skirts and prod insolent choreothane. So he's not happy. So looking forward to that.
That was the second thing again in these chapters that I was like, yes, Setwirst and Caradmon, we're gonna have some fun. And then they've already packed up and left.
Yeah. Except when he gets there, he can't get in, or they're not there, or
they were in the process.
They were already in the process of packing.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then Evanstar. That's the part that I got as far as.
Mm-hmm. So the Evanstar, I thought it was interesting we kept on returning to Phelan, because actually we've skipped out the fact that Fjark and Phelan and the mother, etc., all had a conversation about what they would do and what way they would go. But she was very prominent through all of these chapters, at least at some stage, to kind of remind you, she's going and she's going to be coming along here and whatever else. And it sort of culminates then in them kind of impersonating an Alliance barge.
Yes.
Through the blockade, essentially. And at the same time, that little ship, Fionn Arath, is looking for Catrick.
I know. How many times is he gonna get his ass beat through just being nosy?
I
Why?
I mean,
Why was he looking for Catrick?
because he
He
wanted to know why Catrick was following Arthur and not kind of taking Lysair's employ, just like he does with everybody. Why are you
Okay.
not with Lysair? He seems like such a cooler guy than this Arthur dude who I look like.
Yeah, doesn't he have enough information at this point to make up his mind one way or the other?
Well, I missed the last one, but even Jensen gets sick of his shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
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 Everybody gets sick of him, and he did get beat up a couple of times here, which was good to see. You know, he lost a couple of teeth and all the rest of it. But I again, I like how Catrick was like, I don't know who you are, boy, but you definitely aren't Arathon. That was really funny.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, but Catrick, isn't it one of the ship or one of the people on the coast basically says, I think I seen a ship that you've obviously designed, Catrick. It's out in the ship with an alliance banner. And he went, there ain't no such that's not gonna happen. And of course the Ren recognized it as the Even Star. And he's like, oh shit, I know it's gonna happen here. We need to help this out.
Yeah. I mean, what a risk Phelan takes, because what's the chances that somebody's gonna recognize a ship and give the right signals for to let her get in? And yeah, there was
Oh, but what's his name? Tarek said he'd help her with the flag signals to get in, right? Because he used to work at Ayleston. Was
Yeah.
that not enough? Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a big risk though. I mean, that's
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
That's
It's a whole plan to, fake, floundering her ship, and giving the signal so they can, capture it.
yeah. But
yeah.
in the news items, Lysair strikes at it with light, and Arathon tries to
Yeah.
cover it up with shadow, but it's
Not
too
in
late.
time.
Yeah.
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 Launch shadow too late to quite shield the explosive
End
impact.
scene.
End scene. Come back in 2 weeks.
So, yeah, exactly it.
Done.
It was,
I always feel like when characters talk about who will look after their children when they are gone, they'll die in a bit.
I want. Oh my god. So did you catch the one important thing when she's talking to her mom?
Oh.
right. There was lots of stuff. She handed over responsibility for her kids.
What does
That was
she
quite
ask?
important.
Oh yeah, the
for her mom
oath,
to give
the
back?
ring, the
Oh
ring.
yes, the ring.
Yep.
Oh,
What does that
that's the
entail?
ring Arathon gave her, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
All the way back in Ship Samaria, yeah.
All the way back in Shitsamaria, yeah. Didn't that confer some kind of protection of some sort or something?
Yeah.
That was representative of his oath to her that her kids would be safe.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And she gave up the ring to her mother to keep for her kids.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
Well,
Denise
shit.
had the ring this whole time, because Erethan had made that promise to her.
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And
Janine's her
Phelan's
mother.
like,
That's right. From ships.
I
That's
want
right.
you to give
Yeah,
this back.
that's right.
Like
Yeah,
basically, you don't bind him anymore under this oath to keep us safe, right?
Right, because we're grown ass adults now.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Well, that sounds a little ominous.
Yeah.
Mm.
That ending of this chapter was a bit ominous. A bit ominous. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of
Excited for the next 4 chapters. Sorry.
Yeah.
like an exceptional 4 chapters. I have to say
Yeah.
they're really, really
Really
exceptional 4 chapters.
outstanding. This
Yeah.
this book has quickly vaulted near the top of my favorites for the series. It's been great.
So I was hadn't finished the last bit of the last chapter that we read for last time, right? And it was that big healing sequence that I it was brilliant. It had meshed together some of my favorite bits from the previous books, like the healing scene in Ships of Merior and the when Moriel / Celidi tries to interfere, they rebuff her and all of that. Like, it was a lot of fun, and I was thinking to myself, oh, I didn't get to talk about this last time, but I would like to start the discussion with that so that we get to talk about it. But then so much happened from then to now, I
I was
forgot.
gonna say you nailed that
Oh,
whole
I like
premise. That's good. Yep.
that. Yeah. So yeah, it was that feels like 2 books ago instead of 4 chapters ago.
I know. It's amazing because these 4 chapters, it's like 160 something pages, but it really feels like a full book. Those 4
But, yeah,
chapters,
that's right, yeah.
when you compare them to other books that have like 200 or 300 pages, it's like there's just as much information packed into these 4 chapters as there is in any regular book. That's a 200 or 300 page book, and it's incredible.
It is. Cool. Yeah. Excited to see through the end of this arc and start the next one. Because we have 2
Yeah.
arcs left, but much shorter ones. All right.
Are they?
Then,
Well,
yeah.
I was going to say it really feels. I definitely felt in this book. It felt like the series is ramping up towards an end, but we still have like 3 books to go, and the last one's enormous, so it's
Yeah.
not ramping up that quickly. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. And can I point something out? No, let's not. But yeah, I do wonder if we'll shift focus from the curse to something else, or like with the dragon coming up and Lysa realizing that he's or having some ways to fight the curse, and Salphinaven trying to help him. But
Well, that's got to be part of the next period. Is
Mm.
Lyser has admitted that he knew the curse was there, and he should have some memory of being lucid, if you know what I mean. So he's got to be looking to alleviate himself of the influence of the curse in some way to
Yeah,
kind of save himself.
Yep.
Is that a prediction, Chris?
That's a prediction. I don't
Very
think
nice.
it's that brave. I don't think it's that brave a one. I think that's quite there's a more obvious things that you could predict from this. But to be honest, I wasn't until that little period. I didn't see a way that it would happen. You know what I mean? There didn't seem to be the impetus for it to happen or the reason for him to want it to happen.
Yeah.
But this whole section just kind of elevated that, the importance of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once again, the importance of the magic sword is
The sword thing.
paramount. The sword thing.
Yeah, I tell you what, might just work on a t-shirt design with the lethal and radiating out and doing the sword thing on a bullet.
The sword thing.
Another good idea.
Like that.
Merch.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's it. Oh yeah,
predict-
the next 2. Sorry, go ahead.
I predict that Erethan will play Lyranth.
All right, okay.
Oh yes, that's solid.
And look at that man, Chibi Po. He said he had no catchy subtitles to put up at all, and now he mentions the hot mess.
Right. And that's the thing that I would maybe have focused on the least, and now you've drawn our attention to it. So
I was feeling very, very Lorenda focused because again, she is not being looked at by Celidi, and she is the biggest threat to Celidi still.
That's true. That's true.
Hey, I'm rooting for her.
Yeah. She's been through the mill, and she's done some bad stuff, but everybody has a shot at redemption.
Stuff, but
Even now, she's like, "Oh, I want to watch Arathon's downfall. Here we go," and she doesn't even have the excuse of the curse. She's just filled with hatred. So, yeah, I guess I'm not a Lyrenda apologist like I am for Lysa.
You're going to get space in your heart for one betrayer. That's fine.
One betrayer.
Yeah, just the one.
One.
He has good reason.
I am going to have to work on all this merch. You know, Team Lyser, Salt and Evan with a heart. The sword thing. There's quite a lot. There's quite
Yeah, a
a
lot.
lot
Yeah.
of stuff we could do. Yeah.
Put some stuff on Redbubble. Okay. Yeah, that's where I get my Bridge Burners t-shirts from. Anyway,
And you could have the dragon's name and say, pronounce this. You know?
yes. Shield. Anyway,
You know, on the front, how you pronounce it, and on the back, how Varsha pronounces it. You know what I mean? Oh, no, I'm never going to be allowed. Admin privileges. Just there you go.
So you can't add yourself back in when I take you out. Okay.
Damn.
All right.
All right. So we'll see everybody 2 weeks from now with the end of this book. We might schedule a conversation with Janny as well. We have to work out the dates, but the live stream will probably be on Jared's channel. Maybe mine if we can work out how to make StreamYard behave and publish to multiple channels. But yeah, that's it. We'll see everybody in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for listening, and bye.